Imagine walking into the most exclusive, unforgiving, and rigidly structured industry in the world, an industry that has spent over a century dictating a single, narrow definition of human beauty, and refusing to shrink yourself to fit its impossible mold. This is the extraordinary reality of a woman who looked at a global fashion system built on exclusion and systematically dismantled it from the inside out. She did not just ask for a seat at the table, she built her own empire, redefined the very concept of allure, and forced the world to recognize that beauty is not a size, but a powerful, unapologetic state of being. Her journey from a small-town teenager discovered in a shopping mall to the highest-paid, most influential plus-size model in history is a masterclass in relentless self-belief, strategic entrepreneurship, and the profound courage it takes to be the first. To understand her legacy is to understand the modern evolution of body positivity, a cultural revolution spearheaded by a visionary who transformed her own perceived flaws into a multi-million-dollar global brand. The genesis of this unprecedented cultural shift began in the autumn of 1987 in the quiet, unassuming city of Lincoln, Nebraska. Raised in a supportive, deeply grounded family, her early years were marked by a normal, Midwestern childhood, far removed from the glamorous, high-pressure epicenters of the global fashion world. She was a typical teenager, with typical insecurities, navigating the awkward phases of adolescence while harboring a quiet desire to explore the world beyond her hometown. Her destiny was inadvertently altered at the age of 12 when she was approached by a modeling scout while shopping at a local mall. While many young girls might have been thrilled by such an encounter, her introduction to the industry was immediately fraught with the harsh, labeling realities of the business. She was quickly categorized not as a standard fashion model, but as a plus-size model, a distinction that in the early 2000s carried a heavy, often derogatory stigma. Despite the immediate pigeonholing, she signed with an agency, taking her first tentative steps into an industry that was entirely unprepared for her magnitude. The early years of her career were defined by immense frustration and systemic rejection. The fashion industry of the 2000s was notoriously rigid, heavily favoring extremely thin silhouettes and actively marginalizing anyone who deviated from that narrow standard. She faced constant auditions where she was told she was too big, too curvy, or simply not the right look for high-fashion campaigns. She was relegated to catalog work and lower-tier advertising, often fighting for basic respect on set. The psychological toll of constantly being reminded of her perceived inadequacy by an industry that claimed to sell dreams was profound. She struggled with her own self-image, battling the internalized biases of a society that equated thinness with worth. However, instead of allowing the rejection to break her spirit, she used it as fuel. She began to study the business, understanding the mechanics of branding, marketing, and the power of public perception. She realized that if the industry would not create space for her, she would have to force the doors open herself, transforming her perceived limitations into her greatest, most disruptive asset. The turning point in her career, and indeed in the history of modern fashion, arrived in the winter of 2016. After years of grinding, building a loyal social media following, and consistently demanding visibility, she achieved the ultimate, historic breakthrough. She became the first plus-size model to be featured on the cover of the legendary Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. This was not merely a magazine cover, it was a monumental cultural earthquake. For decades, this specific publication had been the ultimate arbiter of a very specific, unattainable standard of physical perfection. By placing her on the cover, the publication effectively shattered the glass ceiling of the swimwear and modeling industry. The impact was immediate and global. She was suddenly everywhere, gracing billboards, television screens, and the front pages of major international newspapers. She proved that sex appeal, allure, and mainstream desirability were not confined to a single body type. This historic moment elevated her from a successful niche model to a global icon, permanently altering the trajectory of her career and the broader cultural conversation surrounding body image. Following her historic magazine cover, her momentum became utterly unstoppable, and she began to conquer the most exclusive, traditionally exclusionary realms of high fashion. She walked the runway for major, prestigious designers who had previously never considered casting a model of her size. She appeared in global advertising campaigns for luxury brands, standing shoulder to shoulder with her traditionally thin peers, completely indistinguishable in her star power and professional execution. She graced the covers of the most prestigious fashion publications in the world, proving that high fashion could be both avant-garde and inclusive. Her presence on the runway was not a token gesture or a diversity checkbox. She commanded the catwalk with the same fierce, magnetic energy as the top supermodels of the era. She forced the fashion elite to recognize that a garment's beauty is enhanced, not diminished, by the diverse bodies that wear it. Her relentless work ethic and undeniable charisma made her a favorite among top photographers and designers, solidifying her status as a true supermodel in every sense of the word. Recognizing that her influence extended far beyond the camera lens, she strategically pivoted to build a comprehensive, multifaceted business empire. She understood that true power in the modern entertainment landscape requires ownership, not just participation. She launched her own highly successful lingerie line, specifically designed to celebrate and flatter curvy bodies, filling a massive gap in a market that had historically ignored women of her size. She expanded into the beauty sector, developing skincare and cosmetic products that emphasized natural radiance and inclusive shades. Furthermore, she launched a highly popular podcast, creating a platform to interview other trailblazing women, discussing the unfiltered realities of fame, mental health, and navigating male-dominated industries. She authored a best-selling book, sharing her personal journey, her philosophy on self-love, and her practical advice for overcoming societal conditioning. Through these ventures, she transformed her personal brand into a lucrative, diversified business, proving that her influence could drive massive commercial success across multiple industries. Beyond her commercial triumphs, her most profound impact has been her relentless, deeply personal advocacy for body positivity and maternal health. She has consistently used her massive platform to challenge the toxic, airbrushed perfection promoted by traditional media. When she became pregnant with her first child, she documented the entire journey with radical transparency. She shared the physical changes, the stretch marks, the weight gain, and the emotional vulnerabilities of pregnancy, completely dismantling the myth that motherhood must be a pristine, flawless experience. Tragically, she also opened up about the devastating reality of miscarriage, a topic still shrouded in stigma and silence. By sharing her profound grief and her subsequent journey through in vitro fertilization, she provided comfort and solidarity to millions of women who had suffered in isolation. When she finally welcomed her children, she continued to share the unfiltered reality of the postpartum body, celebrating the physical changes as badges of honor rather than flaws to be hidden. This radical authenticity resonated deeply with her audience, cementing her role not just as a model, but as a vital, empathetic voice for women everywhere. Behind the global fame and the massive business empire, she has maintained a deeply grounded, fiercely protected personal life. Her marriage to a talented photographer and filmmaker provided a strong, stabilizing foundation amidst the chaotic, high-pressure world of global fashion. Their relationship is built on a profound mutual respect, shared values, and a united front in navigating the intense public scrutiny that accompanies their respective careers. They have cultivated a private, loving home environment for their children, deliberately shielding them from the negative aspects of internet fame, while teaching them the importance of self-acceptance and kindness. Her husband frequently collaborates with her on creative projects, capturing her most powerful, intimate imagery and helping to shape the visual narrative of her brand. This strong, supportive partnership has been instrumental in her ability to maintain her mental health and her grounded perspective, allowing her to weather the inevitable storms of public life with grace and resilience. The legacy of this extraordinary trailblazer is permanently woven into the cultural and commercial fabric of the modern world. She did not merely participate in the fashion industry, she fundamentally restructured its foundational rules, proving that inclusivity is not just a moral imperative, but a massive, untapped commercial opportunity. She paved the way for a new, diverse generation of models, ensuring that young girls growing up today will see themselves represented in the media they consume. Her journey from a small-town teenager facing systemic rejection to a global icon, entrepreneur, and author is a profound testament to the power of unyielding self-belief and strategic brilliance. She transformed the very concept of beauty, shifting it from a rigid, exclusionary standard to a vast, inclusive celebration of human diversity. From the quiet streets of Lincoln to the most prestigious runways and magazine covers on the planet, her life is a continuous, vibrant declaration that true power lies in owning your narrative. She is not just a supermodel, she is the undisputed architect of modern body positivity, leaving behind a legacy of empowerment, authenticity, and unapologetic self-love that will inspire generations to come.